Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another video here. I want to talk about Maggie and Glenn. I guess more specifically Maggie and, well, I guess the Ree family, right? Because like Maggie, obviously in this season is going to be, it's not going to be so much focused on Negan. I think we're going to focus a lot more on just her specifically and her becoming the leader of the Commonwealth. Because like that is coming, obviously. Like they are going to get to that point at some point here, but it's just like there's been a lot of like Negan drama to deal with. And so I think we're getting away from that though. And I think we're going to start to transition from that to a more personal story for her, which I think is smart because I like Maggie, right? I think the issue is we like most fans like Negan and Maggie. And so you don't want to be choosing between the two. And when Maggie's still pissed off about the past, which first of all, she does have every right to be, it can be kind of annoying. And I want the character to focus more on just herself again. So I think that, it would be really great to get that again. But yeah, I do think we're going there. But also Glenn, Glenn's going to be, I hope his memory is very much kept alive here in part 11, Jesus Christ, season 11. Because I think that, it's the final season. You need to keep his spirits here. So obviously, before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you want more Walking Dead content like this. Also, there's a new episode of the podcast where we do break down the trailer and talk about a bunch of stuff. So if you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, we are available on YouTube. The link is down below. We are also on Spotify, but yeah, let's move on here. So we obviously get that shot of Maggie. I mean, we don't see Glenn's grave, or at least I didn't pick up on it, but she is at the hilltop. She is likely going to visit the grave. I mean, she's there. We're going to get a scene with her and Hershel visiting Glenn's grave. It's going to be a very emotional scene. It's something that I really wanted to get in part A. And I mentioned it made no sense that they didn't do that. But obviously they had other places where they had to go. They wanted to go to the Meridian, this and that. And honestly, when I look at part A and I look at all that stuff, it just felt so random and just so forced in. Honestly, I think a lot of us just felt very disconnected from it. Like I really like Leah. I hope Leah survives. I don't think she's going to, but I really hope she does. And I think she was a really great character to come out of that arc. I think you could have did something very differently there with Leah. I think that Leah could have just showed up at Alexandria, or there just could have been something different that happened. I don't know. But obviously, I think their thinking was, well, Maggie attacked this group, this and that. And so you wanted to somehow, have Maggie show up again and have that. But I just feel like even with doing that, they didn't really flesh out why Maggie and Meridian were sort of, I guess Maggie was staying at the Meridian, so that was her old home. But like Maggie versus the Reapers, like we don't know why it happened. It kind of feels like the Reapers are just the bad guys and just showed up, right? So I wish it would have been fleshed out a lot more. And it really has just kind of felt like overall everything's been like all for nothing kind of thing, right? But now we're actually getting to the stuff that I've been wanting to get to since we found out Maggie was coming back to the show. And that is Maggie visiting Hilltop, because we got that in the bonus episodes, but she just stood outside. And I was wondering, what the hell are you doing? Like you finally are at the Hilltop, go visit your husband. And she didn't, which just felt so random, so off. Yeah, honestly, it was really off, but I'm happy that we're getting it now. I think it's going to be a very emotional scene. And I think that Glenn needs to play a bigger role here. And so that's where I want to kind of shift to a little bit here before we go back to Maggie. I really do want Glenn to play a role somehow. And I hope he's brought up a lot in this final season, because I think the final season, I think it has to celebrate everything that was, right? Like the new shows in the future and stuff, the movies, and etc. All that will be in the future. They'll do some references here and there to the past, and because of course they're always going to. But this show is still the show, and I think the show has to honor its path. And killing Glenn was a part of that path, and not only that, but the life of Glenn and what he contributed to the show in those first 6 seasons, almost 7. And just the fandom that he created too with that. I think all that has to be celebrated, just sort of in general. And I hope he's brought up a lot. And that's why I always say Rick too. Rick also has to be brought up a lot because he literally started it. And I hope Michonne is brought up as well. I hope some of Maggie's family is just sort of brought up. I mean, it's kind of happened here and there anyways. Maggie brought it up a little bit more in the bonus episode. So I hope we hear of Hershel and Beth. And I hope Daryl talks about his brother Merle. I hope that we do hear some of this stuff, because the story is coming to a close. You want to celebrate all of that. You want to celebrate the path that they've been on, the entire story. And I think Glenn should be a big part of it. And honestly, it really is those two characters specifically that I want to see more of. It's Rick and Glenn. Every other character, honestly, I don't really care for. Like, could you talk about Merle more? Sure, you could, but I don't really care. Could you talk about Michonne more? Sure, I guess you could, but I guess I care a little bit more, but not as much as with Rick and Glenn. Like, I picked those two characters specifically because Rick and Glenn literally started off the entire series. It would be cool to bring Morgan back, because Morgan also, Morgan started off the entire series. I just don't see him being there. I just don't, maybe in the final episode, but I just don't see Morgan being there because it would just be kind of insane. Morgan has his own ventures now, and I do think he'll probably cross over into the movies eventually. But Rick and Glenn, Rick started everything out. Glenn was literally like his sidekick for so long, right? Like, eventually Daryl became the sidekick, but Glenn was at first. Like, he's the original sidekick for Rick Grimes. He did everything Rick wanted, he helped him out so much. Like, literally Rick would be dead if it wasn't for Glenn. So I think that, that character, and it's not even really that, it's Glenn as a character has created this family lineage. He has there's the Hershel family, or the Green family, I guess, and the Reeve family. They're sort of connected there, but there's this huge family lineage there. It's, it's definitely on par, I would say, with the Grimes family. And I think that needs to be celebrated here. I want to learn or hear a lot more about Beth and Hershel, Glenn. And I hope that we do see little Hershel Ree talking about his father, or at least asking questions. And I really do want to see the scene where we do see Hershel visiting Glenn's grave, because I think that that's going to be powerful. We're like at the final season. Hershel is a grown kid now. He's like, what, 8, 9 years old, and he's standing there in front of his father's grave, who died however many years ago now. It's just, and we know who Glenn is. It just really speaks to the legacy of the show, and just how much time has passed since we met Glenn and since he's died. And I think it would be really beautiful. But anyways, I think, again, this all needs to be a really important part here. And I think the fans are going to be happy. And I think it has to be sort of Maggie's motivation to wanting to rebuild the Hilltop. And, for her to look to be the leader of the Commonwealth, because that's kind of where we're going with her story here. And so that's why I really like the fact that they showed Maggie at the Hilltop, because that made me happy. It's like rebuilding Hilltop. That's going to be a lot of fun to see. It'll be a very positive experience, obviously. And I think that, like the Hilltop it's one of those communities that definitely it is a fan favorite. Like Alexandria obviously is, but the Hilltop definitely is as well. Like, yeah. Anyways, let's transition a little bit more from that to what we're getting of Maggie here. And it does kind of seem like, first of all, compared to Daryl seems to get in a lot of trouble. I don't think Maggie's going to get in a lot of trouble with the Commonwealth, but it does seem like she is taking charge a lot more. And I don't know if she's going to accept the Commonwealth ways. I don't even know if she goes to the Commonwealth. I'm trying to think, like, were there shots of her at the Commonwealth? Like maybe, but I don't know. I think maybe she just stays in Alexandria for a bit. Like, I'm not entirely sure what Maggie's actually going to be doing here in the final, or in part 2. I know eventually she will make her way there. I just don't know if she gets there at first. And yeah, there definitely will be that conflict there. When, like, I really can't wait for the first scene between Maggie and Pamela Milton. Oh man, that's going to be such a great scene. Because that's one thing too, and I guess this does contain spoilers a little bit, but Pamela Milton doesn't die. She actually still lives within the Commonwealth. Maggie eventually takes her position. Maggie is the leader. She's basically the president of, in the end, when they do that 20-year time jump, like, her position is basically president of the United States. Like, she is at that stature. So, Pamela Milton obviously is allowed to live. They live in a world full of laws now in that sense. So you can't just go kill people. You're going back to the way things were. You're not in the apocalypse anymore. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because there's some really interesting parallels there between Maggie and Pamela Milton. And I wonder if Maggie's going to see that and be like, I don't want to be like her, but I'm trending in that direction to be a lot like Pamela Milton. And what's so crazy about it is, in the comic, she actually does end up like Pamela Milton, which is kind of sad. She's not as corrupt, I'm sure, but I'm sure there could be some things that are going on. I don't know. Maggie's son turns out to be a little shit. Like, Hershel, when he grows up, he's exactly like Sebastian. It pisses you off a little bit. I know the fan base hated it when we got that reveal in the comic, but Hershel, when he grows up, he's an only child, and he got that neglect, from his mother, because his mother was focused on her leadership and this and that. And I wonder if they will make that change, right? Like, because we don't want little Hershel Reed to end up like Sebastian Milton. That's sort of where they're trending to. Like, that's exactly what's going to happen here. And so I hope that Maggie's a little different. it would be nice, you know, if Maggie decided, well, I don't want to be the leader of the Commonwealth. I'm kind of done. I just want to raise my son. I think that would be so nice. I would love that. Or if not even that, maybe they just kind of make that change and, you know, like Maggie becomes the leader, but she also finds a way to spend time with her kid. I think that would be like the best. But yeah, you know, it's going to be interesting to see where Maggie goes in the future. It's going to be, it's going to be a pretty crazy story, I think, with Maggie and Daryl. But anyways, post all your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.